Studying in Germany sounds amazing. Free education, good universities and high quality of life. But the reality is not always as smooth as it seems. So in this video, I'm gonna share the biggest problems students face in Germany and how you can prepare for them. This whole channel is dedicated to make your life in Germany easier. Now let's start at the beginning when you want to set your life up in Germany and face all the bureaucracy. Especially at the start of your journey, bureaucracy is a big headache. And if you are an international student, dealing with all the paperwork for visas, residence permits and other legal stuff can be overwhelming. As a non-EU student, it is especially hard because you first need a student visa and on top of that, prove that you have enough money to support yourself. You usually do this by opening a blocked account. And for that, as of 2025, you need to gather 11,904 euros. And this is a lot of money. And even though this is not an expense, you can use the money in Germany to pay for your stuff, it is still tough to prepare. There are also a couple of ways to get around this and I discussed this in a different video. Now once you arrive in Germany, you have to register your address. You have to do something called Anmeldung at the local town hall and apply for a residence permit, the Aufenthaltstitel. And the problem is that getting appointments for these things can take weeks, which can be quite stressful. And opening a bank account also takes some time and certain banks are very slow when it comes to accepting internationals. I want to prepare you for the reality. Now on top of that, health insurance is mandatory, but choosing between public and private insurance can be confusing, especially if you don't know how the German healthcare system works. And to make things easier, it's best to start these processes as early as possible. Double check all the requirements and avoid mistakes, and use online appointment systems. These are actually big problems, and I have very detailed videos about all these topics on my channel, so check them out if you want. So one more problem that students face in Germany is finding affordable accommodation, especially in major cities like Munich, Berlin and Frankfurt, where the demand for student housing far exceeds the supply. It is quite tough. I know students who need to hop from one short-term rental to the next every 3 months because they haven't properly prepared or it's simply too difficult to find accommodation. This is not nice and not having a roof over your head causes a lot of additional stress in your life. Now in certain cities, university dorms are also extremely limited and waiting lists can take months or even a couple of years. And this forces many students to search for private apartments or shared accommodation on the open market. But the open market is quite brutal in some cities, and in big German cities the rents are very high. Even a small room in a shared apartment can cost anywhere between 500 and 900 euros per month, which makes it difficult if you're on a budget. But keep in mind, in smaller cities it's usually no problem to find housing if you know where to look and can speak a little bit of German. Now finding accommodation is very doable with the right guidance, but the big issue is that some new students fall victim to rental scams. You know, fake landlords can ask for deposits before showing the apartment or even disappear after receiving the money. And to avoid all these problems, you need to start looking for housing months in advance, because waiting until the last minute makes it even harder to find a good place. And then you have to settle for very expensive short-term rentals. So for students, it's best to use platforms like WG Gesucht, the official websites of the student association and trusted Facebook housing groups. And most importantly, you should never pay any money before signing a rental contract and visiting the apartment in person or online to make sure everything is legit. Alright, let's move on to the next challenge. Now, even though many universities in Germany offer programs in English and people can speak okay English in this country, you quickly realize that for life outside the classroom, you need to have at least some knowledge of German. There is no need to be on the C1 level and be fluent, but the basics are very much necessary. A lot of different processes like paperwork for health insurance and rental contracts are only available in German. And after talking to hundreds of different students from different cities, it became more and more clear to me that it is difficult to navigate daily life without understanding the language. Sure, in big cities like Munich, this is less of a problem, but not all students study in Munich. Simple things like grocery shopping, visiting a doctor, or dealing with public offices can become a big hassle without the language. Unfortunately, many students underestimate how important it is to reach at least the A2 level of German to survive in everyday situations. And when you approach the B1 and B2 levels, you start to get very comfortable in Germany. So to make your life a lot easier, it's a good idea to start learning German before moving to Germany, even if it's just the basics. Going from 0 to the A2 level, for example, only takes you a couple of months with the correct guidance. And the good thing is, you can even do this online from your home country. I have personally helped more than 1000 students learn German with my German language courses, so I know it's possible. In case you want to learn German properly and have fewer struggles in Germany, check out my language program in the video description. Now, a big challenge is also adjusting to German culture, especially if you are coming from countries with more expressive and socially open cultures. One of the biggest cultural differences is Germany's direct communication style. People here tend to be straightforward and to the point, which can sometimes come across as rude or unfriendly, especially if you're from a culture where indirectness and politeness are more common. And one more key aspect of German culture is punctuality. Being late is considered disrespectful, whether for university lectures, social gatherings, and official appointments. And some students struggle to adapt to this expectation. And on top of that, making friends in Germany can take more time compared to other countries. Germans tend to form their social circles early in life and might not open up to new people as quickly. And as a new student, this can make you feel isolated at first. But at university, there are many student organizations, sports clubs, and language exchange programs. And please be patient when forming friendships. But the friendships are often deep and long-lasting. And this is very important. Don't take directness too personally. It is simply a part of the culture instead of a sign of rudeness. Now, in Germany, as a student, you are allowed to work part-time during your studies. But actually finding a job can be challenging because of the different restrictions and requirements. And in this case, you also have the problem with the German language. Many employers prefer candidates who have at least basic German skills, which can limit the job opportunities if you haven't learned the language. And on top of that, understanding taxes and social contributions can be confusing at first. You don't know how much money you can keep at the end of the month, and sometimes it can take some time until you find a proper job. If you are new in Germany and don't have many skills yet, you might be confused about which positions you can apply to, what platforms to use, and what a normal salary is. So what I can tell you is that a normal part-time job with 20 hours per week can definitely cover all of your basic living expenses. This is of course if you don't overspend and blow crazy amounts of money on beer and schnitzel. It is always a good idea to set up a proper financial plan for Germany. So you track your expenses, calculate how much money you need for what, and have enough savings. Financial stress is one of the biggest problems in life, and it is also going to affect other areas of your life. I also have a lot of videos about finances and jobs ready on my channel. But this is not all. For many students, especially those from warmer countries, Germany's long, cold and dark winters can be mentally challenging. You get short daylight hours and grey, gloomy weather that lasts for months. So it's very common to feel a drop in mood, your energy is lower, and your motivation might also be gone. And we call this winter depression. And the feeling of isolation can become more intense during winter when people tend to stay inside and social activities, kind of slow down. And this is why it's so important to socialize a lot in the first weeks of university and get to know as many people as possible. This is especially difficult for introverts, and I can absolutely relate to this. Social burnout at university is real, but getting to know people and finding your circle is super important. There are actually a lot of activities that you can do in the winter: skiing, ice skating, and Christmas markets. Now, the lack of sunlight can also lead to vitamin D deficiency, so taking vitamin D supplements and getting as much natural light as possible is very important. And all of this will make the winter experience much more enjoyable, and you might also start liking the German winter. It can be absolutely beautiful, especially when it snows properly. Now, as a university student in Germany, you will also notice that in a lot of cases, studying at a German university is academically challenging. The teaching style and grading systems are often quite different from other countries. In other countries, attendance, participation, and assignments might contribute to final grades, but many German universities rely heavily on one final exam to determine a student's performance. So at the end of the semester, you have this very intense exam period with multiple exams in 1 week. And this system can be stressful because some technical courses or maths have high failure rates of 30 to 50% or even more, which means you cannot afford to take exams lightly. And my heart goes out to all students at TUM who have to pass linear algebra 1 in the first semester. And on top of that, at bigger universities, there might also be less direct guidance from professors. We students are expected to be very independent when it comes to managing our coursework and exam preparation. It is all doable, but especially at the beginning of your studies, you might feel confused. It is completely normal. Everybody goes through this. And it also gets better with time. So to succeed in this system, it is important to take studies seriously from the beginning and not underestimate the difficulty of exams. Now, I talked about a lot of challenges and negative things about studying in Germany, but I can still absolutely recommend studying here, because there are also so many benefits and I talk about them in a different video. And that's why I also dedicated an entire channel to making your life in Germany easier, with videos on basically all topics. And with preparation, all of this is doable. If you want to know more about a specific topic from this video, like opening a trustworthy bank account or learning German fast, I put the links to a bunch of my other related YouTube videos in the video description. Love you and stay focused.